because at this point in the menstrual cycle, we are hoping that possible sperm has entered. Okay, so this mucus performs two major functions. One of it is to prevent additional sperm from entering. Now let's talk about the phases of the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle is made up of two synchronized entities. They happen simultaneously, and one occurs in the ovary, the other occurs in the uterus, that's the womb. Now the first, as we can see here, is the uterine cycle, related to what happens in the uterus, and the second is the ovarian cycle, related to everything that happens in the ovary. Okay, now I'm going to draw this as a cycle for us to understand. Okay, an average menstrual cycle is usually 28 days. 28 days, right? And the range is from 21 to 35 days. All right, so this is the cycle. Now, when a woman sees her menstrual blood, okay, we call that the menstrual period, right? And the period before the woman ovulates, so this is summarily, is called the pre-ovulatory period. After the pre-ovulatory period, now comes the ovulation itself. After ovulation is post-ovulatory. So it's basically the prefixes that differentiate. Do we understand? Pre-ovulatory, that's before ovulation. Post is after ovulation, right? So this has to do with all the changes that occur before ovulation, and then post is the changes that happen after ovulation, and then the woman sees her menstrual period, and then the cycle continues again and again. Now let's go back to our two major cycles. Let's see how this will be explained. Now the uterine cycle, as I said, they are the changes that occur in the uterus or the womb during the menstrual cycle. Okay, and the ovarian cycle are those ones that happen in the ovary during the menstrual cycle. And we know that we have two ovaries but one uterus, right? So each menstrual cycle, one of the ovaries is set to release an egg for ovulation to occur. That is ideally what happens, and most times this happens alternatingly. If this month or this cycle the right ovary releases, the next cycle the left ovary may release. Okay, so that is basically it. Now these cycles are majorly controlled by hormones in the body, and these hormones are produced from specialized organs in the body. This uterine cycle has phases. This ovarian cycle also has phases, of course. Now, for the uterine cycle, we have three major things that happen there.
The first is the menstrual phase. The second is called the proliferative phase. And the third is called the secretory phase.
Now, this menstrual phase is that phase where the woman sees the menstrual blood and she menstruates. Most times women experience the menstrual period from 3 to 7 days, and that's normal. Okay, so that's the menstrual phase. Now, the proliferative phase, as the name implies, talks about growth, development. Okay, so what happens to this endometrial layer, the endometrium of the uterus during the menstrual phase, is that it is being shed out. So it has now become thin and may not be favorable for pregnancy in another cycle. So in order that this endometrium becomes receptive or conducive for another baby, or for a baby to come, implant, and survive, there has to be growth of certain things. What are those things that are growing? They are just basically cells and structures, blood vessels and all that, that help to nourish the uterine wall to be able to accommodate a baby when it comes. Okay, so that's the proliferative phase. That is where this happens. Then the secretory phase of this menstrual cycle. Remember that we said after ovulation, after ovulation, this endometrial wall and the uterus as a whole has to undergo changes that will support the growth of this baby. So now I'm going to take us back to ovulation. I said that during ovulation, right, egg is being released and it goes. Now when this egg is being released and it goes, this is it. Let's say you have an egg, normal egg, and you break it. You remove the egg yolk, this one. You have the eggshell, Abby. Now this eggshell, remember, is the ovarian follicle. It's still inside here. It just released the egg went its way, right? Now this remaining eggshell here has its name, corpus luteum. That corpus luteum now, after ovulation, with the hope that this woman will get pregnant, this corpus luteum will now begin to produce a particular kind of hormone that is called progesterone. Progesterone. So now this progesterone is the major drive for this secretory phase of the uterine cycle. Part of the changes that occur to support the growth of the baby, as I said, occurs in the secretory phase, okay, that is controlled by progesterone. Secretory, as the name implies, means what? Producing something. So this uterine wall has vessels, blood vessels, that help to feed the wall so that it can grow, it can become more conducive for a possible baby to survive inside. You understand? So what happens in the secretory phase is that blood vessels will begin to grow. They will be more able to feed the uterine wall so that the baby can survive therein. Now, this progesterone, as I said, controls this phase. Apart from the blood vessels and all of that, also there are glands. Glands are basically structures that produce some kind of substances. These substances are nutrients that make the bed for the baby, that's the endometrial wall, more receptive to the baby. The baby's bed itself, that's the endometrium, becomes thicker. Everything that happens is to make the environment succulent for the baby. In this phase, the progesterone makes the mucus produced from the cervix to become thicker. So the cervical mucus becomes thicker. And this mucus has functions at this stage because at this point in the menstrual cycle, we are hoping that possible sperm has entered. Okay, so this mucus performs two major functions. One of it is to prevent additional sperm from entering. Remember, we said that once one sperm has fertilized the baby, every other one should go and rest. Abi, so this mucus becomes thicker because what? We don't want further sperm to go. We don't want katakata to happen. That one is enough. So it becomes thicker because it cannot pass through. Do you understand? It cannot pass through as easier or as easily as when it's watery, which we will see during the ovulatory phase. Okay, and also it prevents bacteria nyama nyama from entering inside because this is our baby. We want our baby to be healthy, so we don't want nyama nyama to enter. So the cervical mucus that is now thick, it is now strong. It cannot allow bacteria to enter easily. Do you understand? So that cervical mucus is basically to prevent things from entering because of the thickness. Sperm, bacteria, anything, we don't want you in there. Thanks to progesterone. That is the uterine cycle. That is the menstrual phase, proliferative phase, and the secretory phase of the menstrual cycle.